Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire. All right, hi, this is Attican, and welcome to part 6 of our Australia DLC Down Under playthrough. Now, I want to start this one, but with kind of in pause mode and tell you a few things. Well, first of all, in this prior video or videos, I think the last one mostly, when we were dealing with Newcastle with the rum, I did a pretty got it done, but did a really crappy job with that. When you find yourself, having to do all kinds of weird tricks with the track, that's one sign. Now that may be just that's the way it is, and you may have to do that. But when you start doing what I was doing, which was running lots and lots of trains, there are places where lots of trains are helpful. There are places where it's not. And when you're in a tight area like this with a lot going on, a lot of trains are not that helpful. So I really got the density of trains way too high. I said so even in the last video, but what I've done now to make all this run is I've gone through and actually just deleted a whole bunch of trains. So instead of having a whole bunch of trains from Armidale running to Newcastle, there's just a couple. And from Port Macquarie to Newcastle, there's just a couple. So I've just kind of turned things down a little bit so that everything will run more smoothly. So this area now works just fine. Will make us money going forward. I don't know if we'll come back to it. We'll see what the future tasks we have. But for now, it's fine. It works. And we'll probably do some things down here. I don't know. So that's one is, more trains is not always the answer. Sometimes it is. And I'm glad we ran the trains like from Armidale where we got those 3 trains real fast at the end there to pump stuff down to Newcastle. But the problem is, of course, if you're running too many trains and things are too slow, you're not really gaining anything by adding more trains because they're just sitting in line with everybody else, so you're not getting anything done. So that's a critique on my own play. I just overdid the trains. The other thing is, let's see. I wanted to talk about passenger lines. I've gotten a bunch of comments from some of you about, why aren't you running more passenger lines, and why didn't you run a passenger line at the beginning between like Melbourne to Warrnambool or whatever? Need to understand something. Passenger lines don't grow cities. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, and you're thinking, well, they need people to grow, but that's not how city growth works in this game. City growth works in this game on that number right there. And when it's down in the 30s, I don't know if it's 39, 38, wherever it is, if it's below that number, 39 or 40 or something around in there, the city diminishes. You see that? See how we're actually losing people in Warrnambool? They're moving out because there's not enough goods for them there. If we look at Ballarat, it's at 51. It's staying steady. In fact, we can give it a museum and help it grow. My favorite building. The museum actually gives you 10% satisfaction, which is just amazing. But so this number will start going up. See, there it goes. It'll start going up because this museum is providing some of the satisfaction. But at any rate, as long as we're in that, up over like say 40 up through 60, you'll stay the same. And then if you get over 60, you will grow. So where's one of our new cities? We don't have much growth going on right now, and we're going to fix that in this episode big time. But no, we don't even have one growing. But at any rate, if there's a city where this satisfaction number, here's another museum, where this satisfaction number is over 60, then the city will grow, and 61 or higher, and it grows at the same rate regardless. So if it's at 61, it grows at a certain rate. If it's at 99, it grows at that exact same rate. So growth is a 0-1 switch. You're either growing a city or you're not growing it. And adding more stuff. So if I had one at 70, it would grow, and if I moved it to 80, it'll grow at the exact same rate. And the only thing that having the higher rate helps with is you might be able to continue that growth longer, because as the cities grow, bigger, they need more and more goods. And if you had a higher percentage to start with, you could maintain over 61 or higher for a longer period of time as the more goods are added in. So that's the advantage. So obviously, you want it as high as you can get it, but you only need 61 to grow. So, and passengers do not increase that number. The other thing is, when I'm playing these, I'm looking for a perfect score. And to get a perfect score, there is a kind of a puzzle game element to this. And you have to invest your money as wisely as possible, and that's what I try to do. And I don't always make the right decision or the best decision, but I don't spend money on passenger lines if something else is better, if something else is moving me directly to what I need. And on this particular map, where we have these regions like this, when we started out with just this region, and I knew that we were going to have to expand to other regions, and I knew that that would be costly, I did accumulate some money rather than plopping down passenger lines that would take a long time to return that investment. So in other words, if you spend $1 million or 500,000 or whatever it is to put down stations and track and trains and what have you to run a passenger line, it takes a while to get that money back, so that you've actually made a profit on it. And that time is the most important thing in doing these scenarios and getting high scores. Now, if we were just playing in sandbox mode, different story. We'd be looking at, it'd be cool if we had this line running here and that line running there and all that good stuff. That's a totally different game, but I don't play sandbox very much. I like the puzzle aspect of the games. So anyway, enough about city growth. So hopefully you understand how city growth works. And by the way, these are not my opinions or how it should work. This is how it does work. I've tested it. I've run as close to scientific studies as I could come up with to test these things, and that's how city growth works. Unless they've made changes in the last few months, that's exactly how city growth works. And I would say one other thing. The one thing that can change the rate of growth is a promoter. Those things are great when they pop up here in personnel, over here in the freelancer. When you can get a promoter, they will increase the rate. They increase it more so if the city's already in growth mode. So if you put a promoter on a growing city, it really grows. If you put a promoter on a neutral city, a neutral growth city, it will grow, but at a slightly slower rate than the growing city would do. And if you put you can actually put, like if you have a declining one, you can actually put a promoter on it and it will grow, but it's a very slow rate. Okay, so enough of that. Now, I thought the other thing we would do is talk about, well, how do I plan? I want to walk through the plan for this next phase. So first of all, let's see what we have to get done. We have to have a couple of cities at 80,000, so we have to do some bigger city growth, more than what we've been capable of doing with the current approach we're taking. Produce clothes, produce relamite, produce newspapers, and transport cement. Now keep in mind that produce and transport. In this game, when it says produce, that means that you have to own the whatever's doing the production. If it's produced sugar, it rarely is, but you'd have to own the sugar plantation. If it's produce tweed, then you would need to own the factory that produces the tweed and ship it off somewhere. If it says transport, that just means you have to grab it somewhere and take it somewhere else. So, for example, that one that said transport cement, we just have to go out and find cement somewhere on the map, have the right to get to it, and haul it somewhere. Okay, so we know we have to produce clothing. We know we have to produce the relamite, they call it. It's like Vegemite. And the relamite, by the way, just to get this straight, is this stuff here, yeast, which is a byproduct of your beer industry. You get this yeast automatically. So the yeast, if you combine yeast with vegetables, which are these things over here, then you can put them in a factory and make the relamite. Clothing, you need to take this stuff, sheep's wool, move it to a factory like this, which produces tweed. Then you have to take that tweed and move it to a factory that produces clothing like this, right there. It's hard to see that little icon, but what they've got here is a hat and a leather vest, and kind of stereotypical Australian, the way old Crocodile Dundee dresses. So that's the clothing. We have to make tweed from sheep's wool, feed it to a clothing manufacturer. They make clothing. So that's that one. And then newspapers are kind of interesting. We've got one right over here, and we can look at it and see this publishing takes lumber and chemicals. So lumber comes from a sawmill. We have logs going to a sawmill, going to here, which we've done before to get our lumber requirements, shipping to Adelaide. And then chemicals are interesting in this particular map. Chemicals are simply find coal, which is this, and send it to a chemical plant, and it turns it into chemicals. And there, I think that's probably concrete. That's cement or concrete, whatever they get. Cement, I guess. Cement here, coal here. So we want those. So let's talk about how would we approach this city growth. We need to step up our production to make some slightly more complex or slightly more advanced or down the food chain kind of items, and we just talked about them. So what I'm going to do is plan on doing this, and this is more the way I typically play, which is in city growth mode. I'm a city grower, not a I'm a city grower. That's what I like to do in this game. So what we're going to do here is set up a little 3-city cluster right here. And I like this. There's something kind of poetic about this. We're going to focus on growing towns where we did the original settlements. So these are cities that kind of came about because of what we did earlier in the game. And now we're going to expand them so that we get our 280,000. So okay, so we'll build a 3-city cluster right here, and we'll have some other things perhaps to feed into it to support it, and that'll be our city growth. That'll also be, here's our tweed, so we need that. We need clothing, so we're going to either have the clothing, like I said, in some other place out here and feed into it. Or, I'm sorry, it's right here. I'm not used to that symbol. The clothing will be in Bendigo, so we'll create tweed here. Bendigo's got the clothing shop. We'll use that in our 3-city cluster. The Relamite, we've got the yeast right here. It would be great if we could do Bendigo and do the Relamite there as well. That would be perfect. We'll see how that goes. We may have to adapt and maybe have a little specialty city that feeds in for that. And then the newspaper will probably, I think we're going to do the newspaper in Echuca because it's already got one there. Not that that matters. I mean, we could buy and build one wherever we want. But the thing we have to do now is think about, because this is the great thing about this map, we have to figure out how we're going to get access to these things. So we need wool. We need coal and veggies. Right there, veggies. So what we're going to do to get this access is this area right here looks like what we really need. So we're going to buy access into this New South Wales rangelands. There we go. So then we're going to look at the settlements, and I love this whole settlement thing. Man, they did it. This is just awesome. Well done, Mr. Developer. Well done. So we want to find the one that's going to give us access to wool. It's not that guy. Okay, now that's an interesting one, because this would give us veggies in Dinoquin, or however you say that. And this one gives us iron ore, which we don't really need right now. I have a feeling we will need it. Here we go. That's weird. This one way up here gives us access to that wool, which we know we need. It also gives us coal, which we need. And that's beautiful. So, and cement. So this Cobar is very strategic for us. That we're going to do. So we are going to build that as a settlement. And the beauty of it is we've got right over here a warehouse in Orange that we can feed to get it going. So let's go ahead before I forget about it, let's put in our station for Cobar, and then let's run our line from our little seed warehouse over here. And make sure we don't have any unnecessary tunnels or bridges. Okay. And let's give it a couple of supply towers out through there. All right. So what we can do now is to get this process started, we will run 4 trains out there to Cobar. Right now we're running the Brooks Mogul as our freight train. Three, 4. Okay, so we've got 4 trains running out there. And now I want to show you another thing, another problem, another cleanup. If you recall, we had this line, the logs, running down this way to go in. And then when we built Orange, we ran logs this way. And then we ended up running this simple little hook in here to have a very quick, cheap way to get our wheat running over here. Well, to do that, the wheat has to run across these mountains, which is very slow and very clumsy. And we've got this beautiful little path we created here. We've got this beautiful track through the valley. So what we're going to do here is take this wheat line and actually redirect it to go this way. And one good thing about this is these trains automatically look, unless you've specified where they go with waypoints and platform designations and stuff, they go out and find the best way to get somewhere. So what's going to happen here, look at this. See, trains are already starting to flip over there and say, okay, I'm going to go that way. So what we're going to do is actually set up a couple more after I preach to you about you don't always run more trains, we're going to run more trains, of course. Let's see, Brooks Mogul. I'm going to that's enough. And then I'm going to run, just to get it done, we're going to run a train that goes directly there. I want this thing done quickly. A couple of those. And where are we on research? You can see I've just loaded the game back. All right, the Columbia. I think we're going to run the Columbia as our freight train. So we're going to replace all those Brooks Moguls with the Columbia. So that'll be our freight train going forward. And to make that little direct line I just set up run more efficiently and not have to go into that warehouse and come back out, we'll put a little connector right there. There we go. All right, so now the reason I did all that is I had to look in here and look at this. This poor warehouse is getting wiped out just from the the 3 cities we have. We have Wagga Wagga and Junee and Orange, and those 3 cities are wiping it out because because of the inefficiency of the line going through the mountains. We're going to fix that with this, and well, that's the main reason. And the seafood is tough on this map. This is really a tough map. This is challenging because all your seafood, of course, is along the coast. Well, it really encourages you to build your cities along the coast. It's probably what we should be doing, even more than we are. But but let's go find us a spot. There's seafood here. There's seafood down here. We could run it. Oh man, that's some ugly mountains we'd have to go through. And we can't build right in there for some reason. Probably because it's flat. They don't want us to. They want to make it hard. Or maybe something's going to come up here. I don't know. I don't know what that is. But, man. It would be easiest, I suppose, to run something from here and put it on this line, which would have a nice clean shot. Because what I want to do is I want to bump up the seafood going to this warehouse, and main thing is I want to get some seafood going out here to Cobar, because this little town is key to us moving forward with the approach we're taking. All right, so let's see what we can do about getting. Let's do this. Let's set up a line between here and here, and let's just see what it does. Okay, that's perfect, because it'll take advantage of our little switch we put in here last episode and get on that line we want. I'm not going to demand that it's full. It should be full, so we're going to run 2 trains. And the reason I'm not demanding full is because I don't want it sitting in there if I forget about it later on and blocking up the whole system. So now we've got seafood running out here. We've got stuff from our warehouse, which is basically the logs, and the beer will come as soon as we get caught back up with this wheat, or the grain, which we should have. Evans Preserve, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we should have a nice flow of that. Now, here's one of those promoters I was talking about, and we're going to. Oh, this might make it too easy. We're going to put this promoter on that Bendigo, because we want it to be. That's one of the ones we want to grow. There we go. So now we've got Bendigo growing. So you'll see Bendigo's population is. We'll see it increase. See it going up. There we go. It's increasing even though it's not quite at the 61%. That's the impact of that promoter. There's one growing. Swan Hill right now is growing. Okay, so we got a connection bonus right there, and I would like to grab that. For a bunch of reasons. One is I'm actually going to use that. So, so let's set up the little 3-city cluster I was talking about. Got a whole lot of track going on here. So here's how we're going to do this. We're going to take big warehouses with signaling control. We're going to put them around each of these 3 cities. So we're going to do Swan Hill. And we're going to do Dambulla and Bendigo. All right, now what we're going to do though is figure out where items are going to be coming into our system, into these 3 warehouses. We're not going to run lines that say take sugar and run it to each warehouse. So we'll let warehouse to warehouse transfers take care of that. So this guy here is obviously, well, first of all, let's talk about what we want to hold. We don't want, of course, the redundancy with any of the other stuff we've already got in warehouses. We'll run this directly to the city, but we're going to run sugar and tweed and clothing. We don't have to store that. I'll explain that in a minute. Veggies, definitely, and fruit. And then we could put one more thing. Let's put lumber, and that way we can appropriately put lumber in all the other warehouses. And let's set that. Okay, so then if we look at it, we can say, well, in this warehouse, our plan is that we're going to bring the tweed clearly is going to come in here. And the sugar, because it's going to be right there, close by. And the fruit now, because the fruit is up here. And in fact, I'm going to build that line first because I want to get that connection bonus. And I could just do a quick little connection there and get the bonus, the cheap way. But since I know I want this anyway, we're going to go ahead and build the line that's going to take this fruit. And we could go, we're just going to go directly. We're going to go directly down. There we go. That gave us our bonus, which more than paid for that. And we'll come back up. And our chief engineer, Leonidas Savalas, wrote me and said, hey, supply towers. He was very nice about it, but he basically said, put in supply towers, dummy. And man, was he right. Okay, that seems to be that's always been one of my favorite mistakes, but been real bad about it here in this playthrough. All right, so let's run our fruit down here to the warehouse. That's a nice long haul. And then let's run our sugar into the warehouse. That's easy enough. We'll just tap it into that line we just created. Okay, so we've got sugar, we've got fruit. We're working on our town, which is give us access to this that we need and the coal that we need. Sugar, fruit, tweed. And I think the veggies, oh man, veggies we'll have to decide about. We need to make a decision about the veggies. Do we want to do here or here? We've got a lot coming into this warehouse. It's interesting, the main ones we want to grow are this one and this one. They're the closest to the 80, but this is the one that's going to get really loaded up with stuff. Oh, veggies, how would we get access to that? Yeah, right there. That would give us access, or that would give us access. Which one? Which way to go? Which way to go? It's 6 to 1, half a dozen. Let's go this way. Let's go to Pinaroo. Do warehouse coming out. We'll take this line that's coming out of the warehouse that's headed toward Dimboola. And I've lost track of Pinaroo. There it is. Do we want to do a flat crossing? There's a no. We've got enough money now. We don't have to. We can go ahead and put a bridge or a tunnel. We'll use a bridge. They're cheaper. And back that up a little bit. There we go. That's fine. That's one of those early game you might decide to do the flat crossing because it's cheaper. Later in the game when you've got a couple of dollars, you build the tunnel or the bridge because it's faster. The two lines won't tie each other up at all. Now let's get some stuff running there, and then let's look at this warehouse because it's getting hit a lot. All right, notice wheat is low and logs are barely keeping up. Actually, even meat is low. How's Dimbula doing? Let's pump this guy up one more. Make it a level 3. Let's make this brewery a level 3 too. And put a museum in Bendigo, definitely. Okay, and do we have one over here? I think we did that, yeah. We got the museum there. All right. And that may be enough to get us our 80,000 right there, just having a museum, so I'm serious. All right, let's start linking these up. $16-degree tunnel or a much flatter, cheaper bridge. That's an easy call. Okay, and around here. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, and one more connection. And I'll start explaining how this works. All right, so now we have a ring, kind of the beltway around our 3-city cluster, like so. Now, what we want to do is, in order to plan this out correctly, what we need to do now is decide what's coming into each warehouse. Where are they getting fed? So this warehouse, we have already said, it's going to get the tweed, it's going to get the sugar, it's going to get the fruit, and it's going to get the lumber. So it's going to get 4 of these things. So I'm going to rename this warehouse to be, let's see, lumber, fruit, sugar, and tweed. All right. Then we're going to go over here to this guy, and he's going to contribute clothing to the mix. So there's 4 things here, 1 here, 1 here. So this guy is contributing clothing. So we're going to rename this one the clothing warehouse. Then this one over here is going to contribute the veggies, because these veggies here are going to come into the system right there. So this one is going to be our veggie warehouse. All right. So now the reason I name them like that, that's not something I would typically do, is name things. It's just more work. But it's very useful here, because here we're going to set up our lines to share between these. And we don't have enough goods to really do it, but we're going to set them up now anyway. All right. So we need a line that allows stuff to go for share between this warehouse and this warehouse. So on that line, we're going to say, okay, get out of the way. We're producing those items, so it's okay to pick those up, but the ones we aren't producing, we don't want to pick up. So we don't want to pick up clothing or veggies. Now, why is that? Let's just think about that for a second, and don't want the time to run away. Okay, we don't pick up clothing or veggies here because they would have been delivered to this warehouse from another warehouse. So we don't want to just run this stuff around in circles, and we want it to come in to the system once and move to another warehouse as necessary or as available. So, so that's, shoot, I goofed that up. So hopefully you get that idea. I got to keep this going. All right, so we don't want to pick up clothing or veggies. But over here in the veggie one, oh, we have to turn those items on in the veggie one. Shoot. Play this game much? All right, I have played this before, I promise. All right. We want to turn on the same items, exact same items. 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Okay, so in this one, okay, so now when we set up our line between here and here, we say, don't pick up clothing, don't pick up veggies. And in the veggie one, don't pick up all the stuff you don't make, which is this, 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 or this. So only from the veggie station, only take out vegetables, which makes sense. And that gives us a line. And we can run, let's put 4 trains on that. You see that first one loaded up with lumber? Okay, and then we want to set up a line so that we can share between this same guy and Bendigo. They're our clothing warehouse. What am I doing? So up here, you do not pick up clothing. You do not pick up vegetables. Down here, again, I've got the same problem. I need to specify what goes in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then, let's see, this line goes there to there. Okay, this one, don't pick up clothing or, no. Clothing or veggies. This one, don't pick up sugar, tweed, veggies, fruit. There we go. Just pick up clothing. All right. and go. Okay, and we've got one more to build because we want all these warehouses to be able to share with one another. We got this guy and this guy. And in this one, in our clothing one, we're going to say don't pick up any of the other stuff. And in our vegetable one, we're going to say don't pick up any of the stuff. And in the other stuff, again, or in this case, only pick up veggies. So we're going to have veggies and clothing running back and forth here. And that one won't take that many trains because we're just hauling the one item for now. Okay, so now we have this one sharing with these two, and this one sharing with this one. That means that all of the warehouses can share with each other and redistribute these goods as they're made to put them in all of the various warehouses. And what we can do now is where we have stuff coming in, we can bump up the storage for the stuff that's being brought in to the system at that point. Okay? And leave it at 20 on its destination places so that we won't overload one warehouse and not load another one. And over here the veggies can go up. And it really kind of irrelevant about the ones you're manufacturing, but we'll bump this one up just to be consistent. Okay, so now we have our warehouse set up. So our thing now to get our city growth going and to really get these goods moving is to just obviously get access to the raw materials, which is the thing that this particular scenario adds to the mix. Is you have to build these settlements to get the access. And once we have the access, we can start pumping the raw materials in. We can start buying out these industries and boosting them up the way we want to see them, and we can start making stuff. So that should work beautifully. We have an opportunity for an industry in Kobar. Oh, Kobar's a city now, is it? No, it can't be. They got the circle around it as if it's a city, but it's not a city yet. It needs beer and it needs seafood. So the other seafood train hasn't gotten up there yet. Could that be it right there? Yes, that could be it right there. So it'll get its seafood now, and it needs beer because we were behind over here in terms of producing the beer. See, we're getting very few to export because we're trying to catch up. Again, because we had this very inefficient line here. But you notice all the trains running on this now. We should be pumping the wheat out. And see, we're still not keeping up. We can't ship it as fast as it's being made or grown. What's our density here? 19. We could put more trains on that. And 81, we could put more trains on that. So we could run a couple more of these if we wanted to. Okay. All right, so when that gets done, we'll have our city and we'll get moving into setting all this up. But hopefully you get the idea of what's happening here. And this, by the way, I go into this in perhaps more detail. I don't recall how much detail I did, but I did a warehouse video where I discussed this very arrangement with these three things here. Notice Bendigo is growing. It's knocking on the door here. It's at 69%. We've got that museum in there helping out. Dimbula is at 55, so it doesn't need a ton more improvement in order to grow some more. We've got our extremely profitable meat industry. Look at the profit on that. And our sawmill is making some money. Not a ton. Interesting. And we even got Swan Hill growing here. Now what I want to do here is buy this while I said while it's cheap. It's not going to be cheap. The sawmill we don't really want. We'll replace that. I want to buy this Taylor right here before it starts getting stuff in. And that's really about all we want to do. All right, where are we here? Well, notice we're not reproducing any of this stuff yet, of course. So Pinaroo got its beer. I think we're going to do some direct lines. I want this done. We're going to do a line from here to here. And we're going to, and we definitely need to do this. We need to run more. See all that? We're not getting this stuff up there. So this one goes up to that warehouse. So let's run. I'm not going to make them be full, but they will be. So we're going to run some more trains up to our warehouse up there. And we're going to set up a line, and that stuff's going to get eaten up by the existing city. So we're going to set up a line that goes directly up to Pinaroo. And so, of course, after my lecture on don't make more trains, I make more trains. I mean, what else would you do? I see we're getting no suitable freight on these two trains. That's between these two warehouses. I set them up just to show you the full length. We really don't need them yet because we're not making clothing and we don't have access to the veggies yet. But that'll change, and we'll just let them let them run and practice until we have it ready. $56, $134, and very expensive. Well, $56, $130. Yeah, it's a better train. Let's run this C30 class for our freight. There we go. So we'll run the C30 for the freight. That's a cool looking train. I think that's a new one. And I forget what we're running for the. Okay, there's a couple of conductors. We want to assign them to our passenger mail lines. I got a. Man, signals are really my bugaboo, aren't they? I don't know how in the world we managed to do all that lumber, considering we didn't have signals set for this line. Unbelievable. Okay, where was I? Totally. Sorry, I've totally lost my thread now. Oh, conductors. Look at that, Bendigo is through 80. We should have one of them finished. Yep, we do. Bendigo is already through 80. The combination of putting in a museum and the there's three things that help Bendigo. One, we put in a museum. That boosted this. And then what was 2? Oh, 2 is it has the main warehouse. So where all that stuff is coming into the warehouse, it actually has that warehouse connected straight to it. And that warehouse is pretty much stuffed. We could, run a little bit more if we wanted to force feed it a little bit, but it's pretty stuffed. And what's going on up here? Are we ever going to get these things done? Okay, we need beer. Do we have beer anywhere? Yeah, we have tons of beer that we could run up there. Yeah, we just can't catch up. We could run beer. Okay, this is almost like building a temporary line. We'll connect that, then we'll run way up here. And we're going to run 2 trains from this warehouse to Kobar. And it should load up with beer. There's the first one going. Here comes our second one. Now it's only taking 1 beer because this guy only doesn't need that many. All right, but we've got this first train that we put out there.
The strengthening of industry also sets the levers on the political stage
what
in
happened
motion.
here?
The first negotiations on Australia's
We got both our cities without even
begun.
getting the warehouse set up. Oh, here we go. Ballarat hit 80 again. Now, but why did Ballarat hit 80? Ballarat hit 80 because it's the one that's directly connected to this, so it's getting first shot at those supplies. Same thing with Bendigo, first shot at the supplies. Now, I love that this little loop here will serve us well when we start making these items, which we'll get into in the next episode. So we've set the stage in this one, and we've got some beer headed up here. So Kobar is going to open up, and we're going to get access to the wool and coal and cement that we need. And then we will move from there in the next episode. So in this one, again, kind of to summarize, we have set the stage for moving into this production of these little more complex items, and we'll get to those in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player. I hope you'll like, comment, and subscribe, and join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.